Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of What's New in Prisma. Today
Hey,
we will be covering, hey Sabin, today we'll be covering Prisma version 4.1.0. We will be going through the release notes. We will do a quick demo of one of the new features, Order by Null. We have a guest with us today, Iddan from FlyCode. We'll be talking to him about what FlyCode is, how they're using Prisma, and we'll just whatever really. And finally, we'll just finish the show after a few small announcements. So before we begin, I'll just quickly introduce myself and allow Sabin to do the same. So I'm Tasin. I am a developer advocate at Prisma, and I have been working at Prisma for about 1 year now, and I've been really having a great. I've been having a great time. So I'm a previously I worked as a backend developer at Prisma. I started as a developer success engineer, and then I moved on to developer advocacy. So this is actually my first time hosting the What's New in Prisma stream. So if I do mess up, go easy on me, please. So, Sabin, would you like to introduce yourself?
absolutely. Yep. Yeah, I'm Sabin Adams. I'm also a developer advocate, and I've been here a little bit less than Tassine. I've been here just a couple of months, but also been having a great time. My background is I come from a full stack development background. So I've worked for just about 10 years in the field doing um, things across the entire stack and working in any technology you could probably think of. So I've been around the block a little bit. So it's fun to jump into a different role like this where I'm doing some teaching.
Awesome. That's really good to know. So, with now we'll move on to the next section where we go to the release notes. So I will just share my screen real quick. Okay. So let's just quickly change our uh, banners. Just 1 second.
Oh, yeah. There it is. Cool.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So this is release 4.1. This is the first point release after our 4.0 release, which happened a few weeks ago. So in case you missed it, there was a live stream last week where we walked through how to migrate to Prisma 4. So if that's something that's of interest to you, definitely check that out. Um, so in terms of the changes in this release, the first big change is order by nulls. So what this is now you can order the way that null values are sorted. So previously this was not an option. So nulls would basically just be at the last if you did an ascending, if you tried to sort this in ascending order, and first if you tried to sort in ascending order. Basically, it would be like highest in precedence. But now you can basically manually control that and use this sort of nulls option to change the order in which nulls values are returned. It's pretty simple to do. You just have to add the new order by nulls preview feature. And the syntax is also a bit different from what it was before to implement sorting. And we'll show you the difference when we do the demo in just a few minutes after we go through all the other releases. So that's major change number one. The second thing is we fixed a few internal issues slash bugs that are related to like memory leaks and slowdowns. Um, Mainly, these problems would pop up when you were initializing and deallocating the Prisma client uh, multiple times in quick succession. So basically, it would basically happen when you're testing, when you're like creating lots of clients and destroying them very frequently. So I won't go into the technical details. You can read up on them, the relevant issues. But to just summarize, there will be less memory leaks, less CPU usage, and your tests will be slightly faster now. So you're welcome. Um, that's the second thing. And finally, we have some UI and visual UX improvements to the Prisma Studio. Uh, One of the things is we have a very distinctive panel for all the filters that you have. And you also have the option to clear all the filters at once. So what that means is previously you'd have to manually cancel filter one by one if you wanted to remove all of them, but now it's a bit easier. Additionally, the relationship view is also slightly improved with more visible buttons. That's kind of it for the sort of features or changes. We also fixed quite a few bugs. And of course, shout out to some of the people who helped us get this release through. Um, okay, so that's kind of it with the release notes. And we can also, if Sabin, if you want to add anything, otherwise we can move on to the demo for orderByNulls.
Yeah, no, I think you covered it really well. I think that's good.
All right, awesome. So let's get to it. I have a Prisma project that's already set up, and it's using the latest version of Prisma 4.1.0. So my schema is pretty bare bones. It has a user model and a groups model. So the user has a name which is optional. So you can kind of guess what we're getting at. I'll just turn on Prisma Studio real quick to
Mhm.
show
And
you.
also, could you bump the font a little bit on that?
Of course. Is this better?
Much better. Yep.
Okay. So we have. Let me just quickly go to Studio and show you. So, all right. So we have a few users. Some of the values are null, and some of the values for name are null, and some of them have actual values. And yeah, just as a sort of tangent, here's the filter bar that we were talking about just a while ago. But yeah, to focus on nulls, so we have a few values, and let's just show you the old way. As you can see, preview by feature order by nulls is turned off right now, so the generated client does not have this feature. I'll just go to the script I wrote, and this is the old way to do order bys without the additional preview feature. Um, you mention order by, you pass in the field you want to order with, and you mention if it's an ascending or descending order. And if I just run this script, as you can see, nulls are at the end. If I change it to descending, they will come at the beginning. Yeah. So that's kind of before the order by nulls feature. And now let me show you what happens if I add this feature. Okay, so basically you have to opt into it by adding order by nulls as a preview feature. I'll regenerate the Prisma client because otherwise this won't work. And yeah, okay. Now, if I go back to script, what I can do is something like this. So I can mention sending. No, sorry, it's not like that. It's okay. So I can do this sort ascending or descending, but I also have this new order option. No, it's not order. Yeah, let me just check real quick. I'm very new to this as well. It's a new feature. Let's just look at what. Okay, nulls, sort and nulls. Yeah, I'll just copy paste. Much easier. Yeah. So basically what nulls will do is allow me to specify where I want the null values at the beginning or at the end. So now if I run the same script again, uh, you can see that the null values came first, even though the sort is in ascending order. So yeah, this is pretty cool. If this was something that you need, it's just much simpler now. You don't have to manually handle this in your application code or whatever. So or use like raw SQL. So yeah, pretty neat. Um, okay, that's kind of it. It's a not a major feature with like lots of moving parts. There's not much else to it. Okay, so, Sabin, do you have anything to add, or should we move on?
No, that's super cool. Actually, I hadn't played with the new feature yet. I read the note on it, so I kind of understood how it worked. But it's cool to see it working in code. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's super easy to like integrate or like change refactor if you're using uh, the old way and you just need this. You can just quickly pop in, make like one or two changes, and have it ready. So in the next section, we will be joined by Iddan, who is a founding engineer at FlyCode. So Iddan, if you're ready, we'll just add you to the stream.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey,
I'm
good.
good. How are you, Iddan?
Great. It's super hot in Tel Aviv right now, but other than that, it's pretty good.
All right. Yes, we can all kind of relate to the heat, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So Iddan, before we begin, like, could you perhaps introduce yourself and just tell us a bit about your background and how you ended up at FlyCode?
For sure. So first of all, it's nice to be back here in the show. I've been here last time through a different endeavor. So I'm Iddan. I'm a founding engineer at FlyCode. Um, I got to this role basically because I'm all geeking out about ASTs and code manipulation, something I really am passionate about. And I got to this show now because we use Prisma pretty extensively. It's our main model. I'll explain about FlyCode in a bit. But yeah, my first thing here as a founding engineer was I need Prisma to work. I can't manage with like other ORMs that we don't care about. I was just like, this is my tool. This is what I need to get the job done. And it really made our product development much faster, which is great. Um, so FlyCode is basically a platform that lets you make any web app editable without integration. So imagine many developers in the crowd are working with non-coding team members. They might be their marketing people or product people, designers, could be even the CEO of their company if it's a small one. And a lot of times people come to developers with tickets like, hey, I need you to change this button label, or hey, this title isn't right, and they think like if they are used to platforms like Webflow or Wix, they know that they can just edit it, right? It's like you go to the website, you edit the text, that's it, it's in production. But for web apps, it's not that simple because many times the text is in the code. So a developer needs to get into the code, change the text, create a commit, pull request, get it merged. And all of these steps are, first of all, not very interesting. We like to write cool queries that use null sorting and not change text all day. And also, it slows the company down because if a product manager could have done it themselves, like they would just do it 10 times a day, right? So that's what drove the founders of FlyCode to start a company, and what drove me to join them pretty early on. And we just launched on Product Hunt yesterday and got to second place.
Oh, that's awesome.
Almost product of the day. So a lot of people share this frustration and want to improve their workflow. So yeah, maybe I can show you a little bit how does it work.
Yeah.
Or would you
sure.
like to ask
Yes.
a question? Yeah. Okay.
I think we can like see the like a demo or something, and then we can ask questions.
For sure. So I'll share my screen real quick. Okay.
All right. I'll add it to the
So,
stream whenever you're ready.
okay, so I'm ready. It's live. You all see my screen?
Yep, it's
Yes.
good.
Great. So this is the FlyCode platform. And what we currently see is a React example app. And I have here a table with all the texts in the application. So things like button labels or like all kinds of texts. That is pretty much what is in the code. Now, let's say I am a product manager. I don't know how to code. I don't know where these texts are in the code, and I don't know how to open like a code file and use Git. I just want to edit something. So I want to change sign in. So I'll search for sign in. Now, sign in appears in many places. And I want to change the language to always be login because it's much better for some reason. I'm not a product person, so I don't know why I decided to do this, but imagine I am.
Through extensive A/B testing, we have figured out users respond better to login instead of sign in.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just edited it, and now I can view drafts, which is pretty much like what a developer would do with deciding what to commit. So this is like actually the UX in IntelliJ, I think. Like you choose what you changed and give it a message. So let's call it login is better than sign in. I know, great commit message. So now what FlyCode does, it's making my changes. So you can think about the FlyCode bot like another developer in the team that gets orders from the product manager and does what they say immediately. So now what happened is we have a pull request coming from the FlyCode bot. And if we look into the code, we can see that it actually changed the React code with the text that I wanted. So here's login, and here's login, login, login. Amazing. Now
that's pretty crazy. That's cool.
Yeah. And then let me change my hats. Now I'm the developer, and see, my product just sent me this PR. It looks very good. I can see all the changes. I don't even need to go through the change log, the files changed if I don't want to. And then I just merge. That's it. That way we just saved like an hour of back and forth between engineering and product, like creating a ticket, assigning it, how do you say, like prioritizing it. Everything just happened immediately. And what's beautiful is React FlyCode is continuously scanning the code. So now we can see login is updated in all the places correctly.
Okay, so it can just kind of figure out where logins are in the code, or did you have to like set that up somehow manually?
So here's the thing. I had to do nothing. Basically, the only thing FlyCode needs is a configuration file that we create for you. You don't need to create it yourself, but you can see I have a configuration file here. And pretty much from here on, FlyCode will just understand all the code that you let it read. So I told it to read my React code. So it just load all of my React code. The same thing goes for Angular. And here we have another example that is Angular. It's also possible, and Vue. So we support the major technologies. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It takes like less than 3 minutes to get set up, and immediately gives value for your team.
That's amazing.
That's really cool. It kind of feels like magic.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I love about it. Sorry, I'll let you finish.
Yeah. No, I just want to say it is magic, but it's a complex magic. And
Yeah.
what's beautiful about Prisma, it helped us to model all of our, we have a complete data model of the code and how to update it and stuff like that. So Prisma really helped me to like model everything that I need about all the entities about the code and just save them. And it got a lot of complexity out of it.
All right,
Yeah,
that's really cool to know. And this is something that we have seen frequently, or at least a bunch of times before, is that developers they try out Prisma and they love it, and they enthusiastically advocate for it at their companies and startups. And it's kind of like this very organic way that we have received a lot of adoption in lots of different places, and it's always like heartwarming and nice to see that, because we're basically winning the hearts of developers, and that's how, who our like main demographic, who our audience is, right? So it's always nice to hear about these things.
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. So I'm curious about just Prisma in the stack altogether. Like, what exactly is it being used for, and like how extensively, and just sort of what's your workflow with Prisma right now?
Right. So we have a backend that is written with Nest.js, which is a Node.js framework, and basically for any entity in the system. So we have things like your application, obviously, users, organizations. FlyCode supports multi-tenant. What else? So each text in the system, FlyCode currently supports text and images. So each text and each image has its own entity, and we save other metadata. I wouldn't get into all the details, but we save all kinds of metadata that helps us to understand how this text is placed in the code, so we can update it. So so it's basically our source of truth for everything data in FlyCode.
Cool.
We are synchronized with GitHub. So GitHub, we used to fetch it, but in real time, we rely on our Prisma database, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. That's cool. Great.
We also use Prisma migrations pretty extensively. I haven't had to ask. I asked Nick about using migrations in a way that he didn't think about, like a new way. So I haven't tried it out yet, but I wanted to use Postgres full text search index. And what he told me that it was not written in the docs is I can create an empty migration and just fill it out myself if I want to. So that will probably be because I can't use, I can declare full text search index in Postgres through the schema yet. So I would probably do it anytime soon. I haven't tried it yet, but definitely.
Yeah, it's funny. That's like the secret unknown workaround to provide your own your own migration. So yeah, that's cool. I'll be curious to know how that works out for you. Definitely let us know on our channel.
For sure.
That's I did on that, like being able to create migrations and just editing it manually has saved me personally a lot of headaches at a lot of times, because it's just a very nice escape hatch to have, because again, Prisma doesn't support everything in SQL and in like every database feature. So in a lot of times it's being able to just escape out of like your Prisma like structure and just use something that's unsupported, and being able to still use all the migration features and tools in a very seamless way is super nice.
For sure. Yeah, and I'll tell you, I'm developing for 7 years now, and for most of my career, I just avoided SQL. It was too complex for me, and I was in that generation that was like, "Oh, we don't need SQL. We can use Mongo for everything," and then realized where the shortcomings are. And then with 2 years ago, when I started using Prisma, it really opened up my mind for like made SQL more approachable. and really like I could increasingly get more fluent with it. And eventually, today I'm able to write my own migrations and stuff like that. But before Prisma, it felt kind of like everything or nothing, all or nothing. And now it's like gradually getting into SQL. Today I feel very proficient, but it took some time.
That's awesome. Like it was like Prisma was a kind of stepping stone for you in your like SQL learning journey because it did a lot of things for you. So you could be productive off the bat, but then also grow your expertise gradually.
Right. Yeah.
I think my experience was actually very similar. I also started Node.js with Mongo, and initially it was great because again I didn't have to use SQL, and I found that really scary initially when I just started out. And but again, Mongo, it's not a replacement for SQL. There's certain things you can't do like relations and stuff. And once I tried Prisma for the first time, I felt like, wait a minute, this is kind of the same thing. I can do all of those things that I liked about Mongo, all the flexibility of like using well, not particularly Mongo, like Mongoose, the ORM. So it had all of the flexibility of other ORMs, but I could also do a bunch of other cool stuff with it that I couldn't in Mongo anymore, like migrations and all that. So I had all the benefits of SQL, and I also had a very nice developer experience that I first initially fell in love with when I was using like Mongoose and MongoDB. So it was really the best of both worlds, which is great.
Exactly.
Iddan, before I let you go, is there anything you'd like to add? Any final parting words or anything you'd like to mention?
So as I mentioned earlier, FlyCode is on Product Hunt. We really want to get to the like weekly lists as well, not just the product of the day. So if you all can go to Product Hunt, search for FlyCode and upvote us, that would be amazing. And just give it a try. I invite everyone watching, try FlyCode. It's free to try. And you can also schedule a time with us and discuss your use case.
Yeah, so we added the
Amazing.
link at the comments, and we'll also add it to the video description. So if anyone wants to check it out, definitely feel free to. It seems super cool.
Guys, thank you for inviting me. Really
yeah, thank you for joining us, Iddan. It was great talking to you. I'll let you go now then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, banner change time.
Oh, there we go. I was muted.
Oops, which one is it? This one.
That
right?
one. There we go. There's a comment that I wanted to highlight here. It was a question, and maybe you could tackle answering it. I have an answer for it too.
So why not? So basically, why not use this alternative syntax instead? I'm guessing is the question.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, this was more of a product decision, so I think the product team would be best to answer it. But just from my personal impression, I think the syntax we provide is a bit more declarative. So from here, it's very hard to understand what first means, like what is the context without looking at the docs. But if you kind of mention that it's nulls, it's kind of easier to understand. So even if someone doesn't have an experience with this feature, they'll be able to read it and get a better feel for what's going on.
Yeah, that's exactly my opinion too. If you look at even Prisma schema, everything's built in a way where even someone non-technical could theoretically come in and sort of, at least at a high level, understand what's going on. So I know in our API, we try to be as explicit as possible what we're actually doing. So awesome. Cool. And then I think that was it for now.
Yeah, all right. I think Wan has a question. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong.
Let's see.
Complex. I'm stuck creating complex rate depending on condition. Okay, so I think it would be better if you go to one of our support channels, like Slack or GitHub discussions. and leave a question about what the exact conditions you are looking for to like implement, like provide us your schema, what your end query, desired query is like, and we'll try to help you like figure out how you can make that query with Prisma. So I think
Yeah, like definitely go to our GitHub page, and I'll link that in just a second for you, and maybe even create an issue with some more details. Post your like exact query that you're trying to run and the issue you're running into. We should be able to get you help there.
yeah, maybe start with the discussion first. If it's like a bug, then we can convert it into an issue as well. So not a problem. All right. Someone asked about for creating audit tables. What is the recommendation for creating history/audit tables when using Prisma? Triggers or middleware? That's an interesting question.
Mm.
So my understanding is that triggers is something that's implemented in the database itself, and middleware is something that's kind of on the Prisma side. So it basically runs before or after your queries, and triggers is something that you can set up in Postgres itself, or I don't know if it's called triggers in other databases, but like whatever the equivalent is in the database itself, and it allows you to run some kind of arbitrary SQL or PSQL, which is like their script kind of program language, to do stuff at certain like events or actions or triggers or whatever. Um, I guess you can do both. So it's not really obvious which one you should choose without like more context. So again, maybe this is also something that would benefit from a discussion on Slack or GitHub. And so one thing is triggers isn't something that is immediately supported by Prisma. So you'd have to kind of go into the database itself and write it. And with middlewares, it's something you can write inside your application code, like with like Node.js code, JavaScript, or TypeScript. So if you are not comfortable hacking into the database directly, middleware might be a good option. But also another important thing to remember is that middlewares also has some performance considerations, because to the best of my knowledge, they just run for everything. So maybe if it might slow down performance if you only need it for like a few like you need audit logs or tables for a few things, but you're just you're using middlewares. But again, I haven't really tested this out. It's just like my initial impression. Sabin, if you'd like to add anything.
Yeah, my initial thought would be that the question of whether to use a trigger or a middleware, it does depend on sort of your goals and how you foresee your application changing in the future. With triggers, they like Tasin said, they are supported only on certain databases, so that's something to consider. If a switch ever happened, you'd have to look at those. But as far as performance goes, I do feel a trigger might run a little bit faster. With middlewares, like Tasin said, they'll run on every request. You can add application code to prevent some of those requests from going through unless a certain scenario happens. But I do know that once that scenario is hit, that's going to trigger two requests to Prisma, or two requests through Prisma to the database, rather than just one with the trigger working under the hood afterwards. And I've looked into this a little bit before, and I don't know how true it is now, but from what I understand, the trigger will be a little bit more performant than running a full-on request to your database, depending on what the trigger is. But I think in this case, that might be the way to go.
All right. Okay, so we are at the final stretch of our stream, and we just want to do a few shameless self plugs. So we have a few announcements. I think Sabin, if you'd like to give the first one, it's about
Sure.
your talk at the Composability Summit.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I see you have it up on your screen. Do you think you could pull it? Cool. There we go.
Yes.
There we go. Yeah, so I've recorded a talk for Composability Summit. This is a newer conference coming out that is just focused on composable architectures, microservices, all that different good stuff. And there's going to be a bunch of good speakers. I've gotten to look at a few of the talks that are going to be there and a couple of the speakers that are going to be speaking. And it should be a pretty cool event. But my talk specifically is about how databases fit into the world of composability. Oftentimes, you think of the architecture as a whole, like microservices, different services working, but it's not as often that you drill down to the maybe the database level in your composable architecture. So my talk sort of just goes over how ORMs and specifically how Prisma can help you achieve that composable architecture with as little friction as possible. Because anytime you're changing your database or you have a database that you could swap out pretty easily with something else, it's going to be a bit of work. But my talk goes over how Prisma makes it just a little bit easier for you there. And then I'll drop a link to that in the chat too if anyone's interested. Cool.
That's awesome, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm sure it's going to be a great talk.
Thanks. Yeah, should be cool.
All right. So the next thing on our agenda is we have a new article out about Nest.js and Prisma. So if you've been actually listening to the stream, you might have heard Iddan talk about Nest.js. They mentioned they're using Nest.js in their application. So it's a really awesome web framework for building web apps in Node. And we are currently doing a series on Nest.js, and this is the second article. It shows how you can do input validation and input transformation using something called pipes, which is a Nest.js feature. So these articles are kind of standalone in the sense that you can pick any one of them up and just learn about that topic. You might have to do one additional tutorial to just kind of get started. But so if input validation is something that you want to learn about in Nest.js, definitely give this article a read. And it's available in our blog, and we will also add it to the comments. All right. Yeah, it's available. I'm not sure you can't really copy paste it from here, but yeah, again, just check out the comment. That's the second thing. And the final shameless plug we have is we have quite a few job openings. So if you'd like to come work with Sabin and myself to kind of redefine the developer experience around databases, definitely look up prisma.io/jobs and consider applying. All right, that's the end. Yeah, Sabin, do you have any last words?
No, just thanks for joining us today. This was super fun. I know after looking at the FlyCode demo, I'm definitely going to go check that out after this call. That looked really cool. So
yeah, it did. Super awesome. And all right, okay, that's all then. We'll head out then. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you again in 3 weeks.